which helped it actually helped the actual thought process of the movie. Yesterday we were supposed to watch a movie at 6. The skip started at 6, but since there was a traffic jam and it was right after school, we were a bit late. It was okay. When we arrived at 6:10, the ads were still ongoing. Since it was Cineplex, we knew that ads were not going to be a large problem, because we knew that the largest problem would be the ads, right? The ads are certainly so long. They're boring, they're stupid, they're unimportant, they're irrelevant. Going there 15 minutes late was one of our best decisions of the entire night. Second one was to watch the movie. Those ads, I'm telling you, they are so bad. On to my next point. When we were inside the stadium, we were in the F row, and yeah, F might sound like the alphabet letter, but it was arguably one of the best seats, since it was in the middle, not the front or the back of the theater. The front, you have to look up, you stretch your neck. The back, you have so many people in front of you, it's not the best experience. One of the things learning that room was so large compared to the others in 2017, I thought it was like crazy, because it was so large. It was around 30 meters long and 20 meters high. 16 by 10 photo frame. When you first watched it, let me give you a recap. The movie started out with a recap of what happened between the prequel and the sequel. The prequel was Avatar, the first movie, and it takes place in a planet called Pandora. The context is that there's sky humans, which are recognized as humans, and these guys come from Earth. And since in this time, in the prequel, they came from Earth to find more resources. There's certain resources called unobtainium. Unobtained. It's not really original, and it's not the best word to use, but James Cameron, which is the director, decided to use it anyway. Nextly, what happened between the prequel and sequel. Let's talk about that. Firstly, it talks about how 4 children were born. You had the older son, the second son, the older daughter, and the younger daughter. Of these 4 children, the older brother was the first one to come out, and he was the first child Jake and would have had. Throughout times, and then after this section starts running for around like 15 minutes, we have a bit earlier in the whole movie. It's when humans, sky people, they go back to this place. What they want to discover, instead of finding minerals, they want to colonize it. They want to make it their home. Why? Because Earth is gone. Earth is destroyed. The resource is gone. The movie takes place in the mid-22nd century, 2150. That's the time that it is. It's been 130 years from the current events. After everything, technology has increased exponentially. 20 years has passed. Technology has been able to widely colonize the whole area. What did that make of it? Yes. It enabled large rockets to be made, large rockets that could be mass manufactured. What did this do? This allowed the sky people to massively endeavor their areas. In 1 year, they made one of the largest whole colonizations, with them being a mainly large fort. When this happened on Panorama, a lot of the navies decided to move inward onto forests. Some of the furnaces was burned by the intense power of the rockets. These were so powerful that they kept running from them. One of the main reasons that this was because one of them, Colonel, wanted to get revenge. Colonel Mike wanted to get revenge on why he died, since he became an avatar now. He wanted to get revenge on an avatar, which he used to work for the Marines, Jake Sullivan. While doing this, they decided to he increasingly decided to become an avatar himself, as since he died, he was reincarnated into an avatar with his memories. When he came out, he was described and he had his memory back. Since he was the colonel, he was the leader, and the only one he was under was the commander. The commander wanted to colonize the whole planet. When the movie starts, you can see Spider, which is one of the humans that were left behind, and since he was Mike Myers' son, but he couldn't be sent back using the cryostasis because he was a baby. He stayed with the Navis and grew up with them. He knew their language and he played with them every day. One of the most important things is Spider was, since everyone was searching around when they found out that some of these avatars were back. They discovered, and so the older brother told Jake, which knew about the situation. Jake and his wife decided to come look at the situation and try to save them. As the older brother, as the 4 kids who were trying to go back, they were discovered by Colonel Myers and their blue team. They were caught and taken hostage. While this happened, the mom shot an arrow which killed one of the researchers, and more people trying to fight them. This led to the children being freed by Jake, and then a few of them were shot down. Since they were more bulletproof vests, they were safe from the situation. Myers, the only one that he took away was Spider, since Spider was his son, and he also said that it was a valuable hostage. While this happened, Jake and family decided they were to move away to Section 8, since their team was targeting them, and they wanted revenge. They moved off, and he gave the power of the Forest Navis to another one of his friends, another Frog Navi. He moved to the Sea clans, which then he found Section 8. Sea clans are one of the most separate clans of all, as it's on the southern part of the ocean. It took them long time for them to reach them, but in the end, it was all worth it. When Jake and his family arrived, they were not welcome since they were true Navi. Why you may ask? They didn't have the same body types, they didn't have the same qualities, but they had one thing in common: a neural cord. This connects them with some of the most intelligent, most special beings of Pandora. When they arrive, the other Sea Clan members make fun of their tails, which are tiny. They make fun of their arms, which are tiny because they can't swim. This gives them a massive disadvantage again. During the time, the leader of the Sea Clan arrives and tells them that welcomes the Forest Clan leader, which was Jake. He's really proud to be the Sea Clan leader because Jake was a mighty warrior. Jake was introduced to everyone, but everyone still made fun of him. After he was acknowledged and then the Sea Clan leader told them that his useful qualities would not be useful, and so he had to relearn. On the first day that happened, they found a good house to live in, and so the first thing they did was they decided to learn with the family. 4 of the family members and of the children of the leader decided to go with each other and learn how to swim underwater. When they swam, they were way slower. They were comparatively slower than the leaders, kids, since they didn't have the same qualities. Didn't have a fin, didn't have a tail that could push them forward. But Katie at this time slipped away. She fell in love with the plant life, and so she decided to cooperate with it. And this, in the end, would be one of the best assets. While this happened, Jake got an early head, and he started to learn how to ride. And he rode one of the warrior animals, since it was larger. He found out it was harder since it was the warrior. It had larger strength, it had larger wings, it could fly a bit. And the thing about that was that it created a massive advantage comparatively to other smaller animals. It was way faster too. At this time, while this happened, they were still learning their swimming. On the next day, the kids learned how to ride. Firstly, it was kind of hard for them, but massively they mastered the technique. Third day, since Kaylee was outside looking at the sand, some of the boys bullied her and said that she was a freak. The older brother said it was like he got really mad and decided to beat up the other guys. They lost, but they were also got in trouble since their dad was said to not to interact too much about bad things and try to make a good impression of them. The younger brother was then to make an apology to the other guys. When he made an apology, they said that they were going to go hunting together, but indeed this was a trap to get him lost. When he went to the triple rock reef so that he could meet another, so he could die since there were a lot of fierce animals there. This was when he was almost killed, and at this time he was almost he was saved by another Tukon. Tukon was an outcast, and so he made friends with them, which wasn't a good thing when he came back. When he went back, they learned of what happened, and so they weren't the happiest with him. As this happened, they realized that the colonel and the many other people found a ship which they could bring over. The colonel and the ship, they tracked a leader of the Tukun group, and they shot spears into it. They extracted and they killed it eventually. They extracted a liquid out of its brain, which could stop human aging, which was worth around $70 million. This 1 vial of liquid from the leader was so important that they wanted to do more of it. This kept the Navis really angry because the leader was one of the ones that they bound bonded with, and he had like 3 birthing seasons for the animal to have a new baby, which was also a killing process. After this, many of them were really mad that this had happened, so the Navis decided to fight back. They wanted to fight back against what happened. What has happened? All the Navis warned the Turkuk about what had happened and not to interact with anything that looks like a red spear. This was what started on the next event. The younger brother, which had said this, said that he remembered that his Turkuk friend was an outcast, so he was the only one that could tell. When he went, he was severely saddened to find out that he was already marked, and the ship was on its way to hunt down the animal for its neural liquid. This was when all the friends which were following him, Victoria told him not to go, helped them pull out the needle, and they decided to run away too. During this time, the ship had already come, the submarines had already released, and which allowed them to be in massive distress. The cannons that were blown onto the fish had massively missed, and so this allowed more time to be spared. So the submarines were still chasing them down. While this happened, the Navy ran away and swam and hid. A few of the Navis were taken away. For example, the leader's daughter, Katie, and one of the boys of Jake. Some of them also ran away since they were in this safe pod. This allowed just because since they wanted to run away even though they saved the well, many of the Navis decided to back them up as they decided to attack the vehicle. Now Colonel Mike had some of the kids in hostage. He asked Jake to follow up. While Jake was heading toward them, as Colonel had gotten to his son's head, the whale massively flipped around and destroyed the carrier. This distracted him for a few seconds. After then, he got on the ship, and this was when his older brother had the chance to free the few kids from the ship. When this happened, Mike had to run away, and he hid on the second ship. The whale that crashed on was the tuk-tuk that was an outcast, and since he was pretty mad that his friend was caught hostage, he flipped over and Spider decided to make a run for it. Since he was caught hostage, he was inside the engine room. When he was doing this, since he was caught hostage, he opened up the engine and so he fired it up, almost destroying Mike Myers. Mike Myers was pretty mad, and so since he wanted to soak it, the leader wanted us to get the neural liquid, so he decided to wait out the experience. While he was doing this, he shot another harpoon, which encased went around the ship and pulled out. His arm was stuck in the process, and the rope cut his arm off completely. Then the turtle was free and they started to run. But one thing that was happening was one of the hunters was still caught. Spider was still holding hostage, and so while after letting the little brother go, little brother wanted to go help Spider since they were best friends actually. While doing this process, they waited for the people that were holding Spider to run around the corner, and this was when they attacked them. After killing them, he brought them behind a wall, which then they could stay for a minute and wait. While this happened, Mike Myers found them and decided to open fire on them. While they were doing this, they jumped off the deck, and the older brother was the last one to jump off. He was hit by one of the Mike Myers bullets. This in the end killed him and led to his death. Katie's little sister was still stuck on the ship at the time as he started to hold him hostage. Jake's wife was really mad about this since it was one of his first sons, and so he didn't like the fact that his family was being attacked. During this time, he decided that he could still want to try to save him. She asked Jake so if they could go together. She was really mad. Jake was also really mad. They decided to first grenade the whole area so that the area was clear of people. While they were doing this, they found out that Spider was still there, and Spider wanted to help. He would end up being a really good help since he would pretend to be hostage so then he could run away. Firstly, he faced on Mike Myers as he shot bullets at each other. He dodged them and he fought with knives. And at the end, she died since the water submerged. Since Jake had more experience with being in the water, he successfully defeated Mike Myers, which fell to the bottom. Katie, the mom retrieved Katie and her little sister, but then what happened was they were locked inside an area. Katie decided to retrieve them since she found that it would be a good help if she could try to help, since she could manipulate sea life. She manipulated sea life by controlling seas. She controlled a lot of brightly colored fish so that she could light up the way. She successfully helped the mom save out little sister and helped and the little brother help his dad. The little brother told his dad what the leaders told him, which was to breathe in and feel the ocean was part of him, so that he could have a longer breath and be more confident in himself swimming. After doing that, Spider wanted to save his dad apparently, but instead he saved Mike Myers because he didn't want anyone to die. He wasn't that type of person. Spider saved him, but Mike Myers told him to come with him. But since Spider had learned his whole life with the Navis, he decided to save the Navis. He swam back to the shore, which he could find with everyone else. At that point, they found out that the older brother was dead, and so the whole story was ended. It flashed back to a time later where they had a funeral for the older brother, which was one of the first sons and one of the most proud ones. He helped Spider survive, and he helped the entire family persevere the entire experience. After he was buried and he was connected with ocean power, as Navi was connected back to the whole planet, which was of Pandora, since the whole ecosystem was of one. At this time, the little brother decided to just cry, and as everyone was really sad, the the leader of the clan then welcomed Jake into the clan officially, because of their sacrifices and their time spent with the Sea clan. Since he was no part of the Forest clan, he was now one of the Sea. And we ended up on the story of this, and it was a great story. In conclusion, the story told us that we should always follow our instincts and fight for what's right, even though what matters. We have to persevere and commit to what we have to do. This inspired me in the future is to first commit to my goals. Secondly, help people with all I have. Yep. Thanks for listening to my speech.